Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, we're going to talk about my book, The New Human Race. Well, when I say my book, I didn't write it. It's written by Howard Williams, but I enjoy it so much, I want to share it with you. And I've been asking you to send for your copy. And so I'm just going to give you a taste of what this little book has in store for you. So I'm going to read excerpts from the first chapter so you can understand, because I don't think many of us understand the human condition, okay? And so I want us to kind of get an understanding of this human condition. And I'm going to read the first chapter. And the first chapter is called The Old Human Race. All right? But let's talk about the nature of man. Every human... before we get started, I need you to subscribe and hit that post notification bell. Please, please, it will cost you nothing to hit the thumbs up button so that the algorithm can put my videos out there so I can reach the people that I'm trying to reach. If you share the video or make a nice comment, it would be also a benefit. Thank you so much. All right, so now let's get started. Every human being is born with two natures, spiritual and physical. Most are not aware of this fact, and it may sound strange to some. But the Bible teaches this clearly, and science is now catching up. Our physical nature is the body, but this is just the house in which we live. 2 Corinthians 5, verses 1 to 4. The real you, the real me, is what lives inside this body, and that is the spirit. Job 32:8. Therefore, the natural state of every human being is spirit. The spirit we possess is the deciding factor that determines which race we belong. Which race we belong. There's two races. The suggestion that there is a new human race automatically infers that there's an old human race. It is important then for us to examine the differentiating features between the two races of beings and to identify which race we belong individually. As already mentioned, it is the spirit within the body that is the deciding factor. According to the scriptures, there are two Adams who are the fathers of two races of humans. One was the first, and the other is not the second, but the last, suggesting that there will only be two. These two fathers have passed on their inheritance to each descendant of their race, but this inheritance is a spiritual one. Let's take a closer look at the two fathers of what they offer. The first Adam. The first Adam was the first human being created by God, or yet better, he was the only human being created by God. You know, a lot of us say, I was created in the image of God. No, Adam was. You were reproduced in the image of your father, Adam. Okay? Therefore, all human beings who subsequently received life came from that first life. All are of one blood. Even Eve came out of this life, and then through the union of Adam and Eve, the life of Adam began to be reproduced. Every human being born into this world receives the life of Adam. Okay? Good by nature. Here is an everlasting principle that is most important to remember. God alone is good. I remember saying that to a friend of mine. She would say, and she remembers this too. Instead of saying, "How are you doing?" and what is our response usually? You say, "I'm good." There's none good but the Father. So the correct way to answer that question is, "I'm doing well." Okay? But when we say "I'm good," we take on so much that we're not good, brothers and sisters. We're not good. God alone is good. Matthew 10:17. When this first man, Adam, was created, he was made good by default because he was in the image of his Father, which was his creator. He was good by nature, both spiritually and physically. I mean, his form was just magnificent. Everything about him was perfect. God had to say it was very good. He received life that was in union with God, and the result was pure and total goodness. His wife also was good because she received the same life that was in union with God. Now, dominion. Man was made to have dominion. That means control or governance over the earth, as a king would rule a kingdom. Everything was under his control, from the birds in the sky to every life form on earth, and even the creatures in the waters. All would be under his dominion and authority. God made him the ruler on this planet. The test came: free will. There are two main forms of government: a dictatorship and a democracy. A dictatorship is a form of government where one individual rules as an absolute autocrat, unrestricted by constitution, law, or opposition. A democracy is a government where people rule directly or through chosen representatives. In this system, the numerical majority of an organized group can make decisions binding the whole group. The essence of any good government is to build on the principles of free will, where the subjects are not forced or compelled, but have freedom to choose. And as you can see today, brothers and sisters, that's kind of being taken away from most of us in this world right now, if we are wise and can see what's going on. Since man was made good by default, without his choice to be good, he was made that way, God had to give him an opportunity to make a decision by and for himself as to what he would choose. This is very interesting. Would he choose to remain in union with God and be good, or choose his own way, be separated from God, and face the inevitable consequences? As a good father, God, Yahuwah, advised his children, Adam and Eve, of the facts that were essential to their knowledge and understanding of issues relating to the test which they had been given, and the choice they would have to make. He cautioned them that by separating from him, they would die. He was not threatening them with death, but was simply stating a fact that outside of his life, there is death. It was very similar to how God later dealt with Israel when he spake these words in Deuteronomy 30, verses 19 and 20. And I quote, "I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love the Lord Yahuwah thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land of Yahuwah, that land of Yahuwah swear unto them, to thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them, unquote. Sorry. God gave Adam and Eve a fruit tree as their test. Something very simple. But there was nothing special about the tree or the fruits on the tree. We don't know what kind of fruit it was. I never want to say it was an apple. I don't know why we love to say that. We just know it was a fruit tree. And in the Garden of Eden, there are all kinds of fruits. Okay? Now, God could have chosen a flower or a stone. It was just a test. The fruit was an opportunity for them to demonstrate their choice. Would they choose to remain in union with God and so remain good? Or would they choose to separate themselves from Him? Let's see. Sin and its results. When the time came for the test to choose for or against God, ignorant of her authority, instead of using her dominion and power to rebuke and reject the talking serpent, she had that power within herself. She had the authority within herself. Eve succumbed to the lie the serpent told and eventually led her husband to follow her example. Ooh, ladies, we still have that same ability today. Are you going to use your influence for good or for evil? Thus, Adam and his wife both made the choice to live apart from God. What a you see, that's the real problem. We like to focus in on the eating of the fruit. That was just a simple test. The choice made was disobedience. They made a choice to separate from their Creator, from God their Father. This was the sin that resulted in death and marked the first case of demon possession in the new world that God had created. Now, man, who had known only good since the day he was created, was now introduced to a new experience called evil, which Satan told him that God was keeping from him. You see the deception. He would now experience life apart from God, which is the self-life that produces only evil continually. Since God had created only one life, and that life had become corrupted by severing the connection with God, all life reproduced from that moment on was to be born corrupted and evil. I really need you to hear this story of the new human race. I really need you to understand what is going on. What happened to us? I'm going to read it again. Since God had created only one life, and that life had become corrupted by severing the connection with God, all life reproduced from that moment on was to be born corrupted and evil. Some people think that somehow people are magically become evil at some point in time in life. They're born this way. Every human being born on earth, from Eve's first child to the last baby that is being born now, while you and I are reading these words, are all receiving Adam's corrupted life. The life that is passed on to every human being is the same condition that Adam was in when he passed it on, and that is a life without God. Therefore, that life is condemned to certain death, because life without God, the source of all life, naturally ends in death. This is the legacy left to all human inhabitants of the earth after Adam chose self over God. So the old human race has a carnal spiritual nature given to bodily pleasures and appetites, with death working in it. That life was condemned to die without hope of ever existing again. That life is disconnected from the source of all life, which is God. Every person born into the human race is Adam's son or daughter, because it is his life that is procreated in all of the billions of people living today and all who will ever live. This life of Adam is at its core separated from God. Consequently, it is a life of sin with self at its pinnacle and with death working in it. It is destined to die. The life of sin is a life of self-will, self-dependence, and self-support. It is a life that is turned inward to itself for the purpose of self-aggrandizement, bereft of hope of God. This miserable condition is the reality of the entire human race. Living without God, the life giver, destined to die forever without the possibility of ever living again. Okay? This is the first chapter in this book, The New Human Race. I just want you to meditate on what we said. I'm going to read this whole book to us eventually because I want you to have it. I want you to have it. Someone asked me to speak on it, and so I said I would do a video on it because I really do want you to have this book. So that's the first chapter, telling us how we got in this condition and what our condition really is. It's separation from God and subject to die. Oh, you say, but everybody dies, Diane. Okay, you're subject to die, to never live again. When we get to the second Adam and the new birth, we'll find out that we have a new life and we're not subject to die forever. We just go to sleep. Okay? But anyway, that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother time. And if you haven't seen my videos on death, go to the playlist and look up death is if it's real or not, and look at 1 through 9. But anyway, we're not talking about death. We're talking about the new human race, what man's condition really is. I hope you understand that. And the next time, I don't know when, we'll go through the next chapter of the book. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for spending a little time with me. And I appreciate your company. And as usual, may the grace and peace of God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ be with you all until we meet again in the next video. Shalom.